He's here today. He's going to be with us for a couple of hours. So we want our hour and a half anyway. We want to utilize his time as best we can and help him understand, you know, our issues, our rights, and the impacts that we've had over the years, especially in the recent years since 2016. And he wants to sit and listen, you know, and he's going to come up here and say a few words. And I posed 3 questions to them. You know, what is shared management to them, to this new government? And one of the things that I guess, you know, if we continue to work and do what we're doing, we have to work together. And as government, as Indigenous people, as grassroots people, and help build that path forward in a good way. And that's why we follow the, you know, the ceremony with the pipe and so on, the prayers, so that we do this in a good way. You know, and it's not about us, it's not about them, it's about the future of our people, our children, the environment, water, you know, Mother Earth. That's what it's all about. So, I'm going to invite Minister Moses up here, and he's got some questions to respond to, and then also, if anybody has any questions, you know, we'll take a few questions, and then we'll get back into our event here, our meeting, our gathering, because you know, we want to hear some of the issues that are out there so that he can understand where we're coming from, you know, and the issues that we have. And so I want to welcome Minister Jamie Moses up to the stage, and I want to thank you for attending today, and you know, look forward to more one-on-one meetings with them and more meetings like this for him to attend. Mr. Moses. Oh yeah, you got a few minutes, yeah.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for the welcome and the greeting and happy to be back again to discuss, and the hospitality for sharing, breaking some bread with me. I had some lunch. Thank you very much. Also grateful just to be in the room as well with all of you folks, as well as my colleague, MLA Amanda Laughlin. Great to be here. She always does a great job of welcoming me into the legislature. She was there elected before me, and so she's been a good source of just a welcoming person presence in the building, a smiling face, and some supportive. So I'm grateful to be in the room with her today. I want to say, just as we begin, that you know, coming into this role and getting to know a landscape that is, you know, in many ways a learning opportunity for me, it's very interesting and very humbling to get a chance to learn from people who have not only had the experience of living from the land and the resource, but who have all such a depth of knowledge. And I thought it's important, just for the few minutes I have today, as you know, Mike said, is about how we build an understanding between each other, how we build a bit of a relationship and a bit of a working arrangement, and a working dialogue between myself as a minister, our government, and you. And so I thought that it would be, you know, a relationship takes two sides to give and 2 sides to take. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to share a little bit about myself, about my history, and about my people and where I come from too, so you can understand me a little bit better, as a way to show that I'm interested in hearing about you and your stories and your history and your knowledge. And so myself, my name is Jamie Moses. Sorry. Oh, can you hear? Ah, there we go. Thank you. So my name is Jamie Moses. I am born here in Winnipeg, but my family is from Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is a small set of islands, but Trinidad is an island in the Caribbean, the southernmost island in the Caribbean, just north of South America, just off the coast of Venezuela. Now, Trinidad, if you can picture it, it's a beautiful tropical place. It's wonderful, gorgeous. I've been there many times. But it's this landscape of it, it can fit roughly between Winnipeg and Brandon. So, you know, it's not a huge geographical landscape, even though it has valleys and mountains and beautiful scenery and oceans and coastlines and beach. But it fits about roughly between Winnipeg and Brandon. And in that space is about the same population as Manitoba. So just over 1 million, 1.23 million people. That same population fits in this island in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's wonderful there. But Trinidad, just like a lot of places, has a history that goes back to colonization as well. The same way this land is impacted by colonization as well, colonization. And so in Trinidad, there were two original indigenous peoples there. They were called the Carib and the Arawak. And the two indigenous people, the same way indigenous people lived here, lived for time immemorial. And they were impacted by colonization. Now, colonization in Trinidad didn't just look like one set of people, but it looked like the Spanish, the French, and the English all came to Trinidad and Tobago over the many, many years, and over a better part of well over a century, came as 3 different waves of colonizers. And with them, those folks, came the big boats that carried people from my heritage, from West Africa, from Central Africa, on the boats through the slave trade into the Caribbean islands. Central America, South America, North America was the slave trade, of course. And both in West Africa, Central Africa, and India, my history of peoples came from through the slave trade on the big boats to the Caribbean and landed on islands like Trinidad and Tobago. And those peoples, combined with the indigenous peoples there, the Caribs and the Arawak, became the vast majority of the people in the islands of Trinidad and Tobago. And they had to struggle and fight for everything they had. They were there to work in the sugar fields and the sugar canes, to send sugar to Europe and North America. And that's just part of the history of my island. And one last thing I want to share in that history is that a lot of the people there, Trinidad is a beautiful place, but it's not without a struggle, and it's not like people got along all the time. You're thinking about combining the indigenous teachings of the islands there, people from African descent, many of who had their own tribes and might have had different tribal traditions in Africa, people from India as well, and as well as all the European influence that came to the island as well over the many, many years. And I say that because those groups today, even though it's not perfect, are finding a way to move forward as a nation. Trinidad and Tobago last year celebrated its 60th year of independence, where they have been flying a flag that's red, white, and black for over 60 years and have found an identity as a nation. That didn't happen overnight. That didn't happen with a smooth path. It happened with a lot of conflict and a lot of fighting and a lot of turmoil. But they found a way to, and continue to still find a way, to be in conversation with each other as different peoples and different backgrounds, because they realize that the greater benefit is them working together. The greater benefit of them is relying on each other, is depending on each other, is building relationship with one another. And so I use that analogy and I tell the story both as a way to share about myself and my history and my past and a little bit about my people, where my family comes from, but also as a way, as an example of how I hope the relationship that we can start and get on that path of one that we know people come from different places. People have different outlooks, different perspectives on issues, different ideas of what knowledge and resources and shared management looks like, and stewardship looks like, different understandings. And we know it's not going to be perfect. We know mistakes will be made. But we also know that the best way for us to get to a spot where we can be working together is by continuing to have conversation. It's by continuing to have an understanding of dialogue, an understanding of respect, an understanding that we're all in a spot where we need to rely on one another to have the best foot forward for our future, for this generation, for the next generation, and generations after that. And so that's the sentiment that I want to make sure we have in this dialogue, in this relationship, while I have this file and while I have this opportunity to be the minister. And I want to know that I take this seriously, because I understand sincerely what it means to, have one group come in and try to impose their will. And so I want to say that with the utmost respect, that I do mean very seriously that the ideas around shared management is to deliver on the best for Manitoba, the best for all Manitobans, to really listen and co-develop together in partnership those ideas of shared management, and understand that it is there are effective ways to manage our land and our resources, using and incorporating Indigenous knowledge and perspectives, that we understand that there's sustainability and equitable approach to doing this work, to wildlife conservation and management. That, the question around shared management, what does that mean? It means that it must involve the intertwining of traditional ecological knowledge into our resource management practices, and recognizing that there is a real connection between Indigenous people that Indigenous people have to the land. And so, our commitment on shared management is that we're going to continue to explore a variety of understandings and approaches to how we implement that framework to ensure that there is an inclusive decision-making approach. And there's also a question around a collaboration, so just to talk about that briefly as well, and what does that really mean, and what does that meaningful collaboration mean? And so, for me, it means exactly what I've been talking about, that cultivation of inclusion, of participatory approach to a partnership between Indigenous right holders, involving a two-way dialogue, not one that just comes from our department to you, but one that involves us listening and starting a dialogue. And that's why I wanted to have that understanding about where I come from as well in the conversation today. And so I want you to know that I do take very seriously the perspectives that I've been hearing about these policies and about the legislation that are in place. And I do want to know that you have someone who is absolutely willing to listen to these things. I think that meaningful collaboration means that we're not coming into meetings with a preconceived conclusion of what the result is going to be, but that we want to genuinely hear from what you have to say, and that we can listen to your perspectives, knowing that you have that knowledge from your elders, that you're powered by the youth of your communities, and that connection to the land and the resources is really integral to the way of life that you have. So I'll leave my comments there for today, but I hope that we have a good understanding of how I hope that we can move forward in this relationship, and I hope I've been able to answer some of the specific questions that you posed to me as well. So thank you very much.
We'll just see if anybody has any. Sure. Does anybody have any questions for Minister? Oh yeah, I forget. All right, so the lady's hand came up over there. So, yeah, and then, but, yeah.
Sorry. I have lots of questions, but I'll stick it to this. So you talked a lot about working collaboratively. You talked a lot about meaningful collaboration, listening and hearing, but I don't hear anything about equity. So the assumption is that we're coming to the table as equal partners, and we are not. So where is the talk of equity and how Indigenous folks are going to be able to come to this table in equity?
Yeah.
I hear a lot of conversation about listen here, but ultimately, whose decision-making authority takes precedent?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's an important aspect. And like I said, I don't have every answer for you today. But what I do have is an understanding that I'm willing to have that conversation on details of how we can work equity and that perspective into every conversation when we're having thoughts around resource management. And so this is a question that I'd love to follow up with you on, and how that looks like in your particular instance and case, so we can find a way to make sure that that we're not taking that top-down approach, that there is an equitable lens put on these discussions as well. So thanks for bringing that up.
Mr. Gould, and then Wayne, and then Chief Janai.
I'd just like to ask, as a First Nation member of Penewutang, I'd like to, with Wapkanu being there and our team, I'd really like to see the NRTA, Natural Resource Transfer Act, be put on the table and start to change these policies and licenses that we have.
Hold on. Could you hear in the back? Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I said I'd like to see the NRTA brought to the table, and these changes to the policies and the licensing that is binding our people. Us as First Nation people have to start inserting our First Nation rights to this land, to this water, and no more just getting a paper to have that authority to be out there on the land. That young lady here from, is she from Peguis?
No, she's from
Oh, Puckatawagan. You know what? You go and trap on your dad's line. You go and trap on there. And there'll be thousands of us to back her up, that she takes over that traditional land to continue that trapping. We had A licenses and B licenses for Lake Manitoba, and those B licenses died with those fishermen. They couldn't even be transferred over to the next generation. That's where it ended there. I'd like to see all those licenses revamped and revitalized and put back in place for our people. We are suffering. We are living in poverty. That resources and hunting rights we have sustains our people, but also brings an economy to our First Nations and surrounding communities. Without our First Nations, those municipalities and taxes that we pay as First Nations would be nothing.
So the question is on NRTA.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. No, those are really important and powerful words. And this is something that we'll definitely have to review and discuss with Minister Bushy and the Premier and team, see the direction. But I thank you for that, and this is something that we're going to take away.
Make sure you invite me.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just so you know that we'll be hosting NRTA Summit June 9th to the 14th. We do have a poster out there, but we'll be making a more elaborative and more in detail poster and getting it out there in the next couple of weeks. All right, so it's at Lower Fort Garry where Treaty 1 was signed. This will be June 9th to the 14th. All right, Wayne.
First of all, I'd like to, in the most respectful way, I was really hurt the last time you came for 9 minutes to hear our people. I was really upset even up till today. We talk about collaboration and whatever reconciliation, and our minister can't sit with us. Comes for 9 minutes and leaves because I've been affected over my hunting rights. It's an inherent right, and government has no right over it. And I told the CEOs the same thing, and I will stand that ground. Whatever policies you guys have, it doesn't apply to a First Nation, an Indigenous person. You guys got to realize that. These policies are killing our people. My son got his truck taken away, my gun. I asked the CEOs there was 8 of them, and 1 helicopter. Who's paying for that helicopter to fly around and charge our people? The people got to know, the taxpayers. Government is paying a helicopter to go fly around and catch our people. That's, entrenchment on our right. You know the harm it come to my family when that had happened, and in our community? None of our people even wanted to go and hunt because they were using helicopters. And on top of the fact, I had written permission. I had a guy on the phone talking, and the CEO was standing there, and he says, we might not have to charge you or anything. We might have to let you go. Because of one will not let it go. And the other 6, and I questioned him. I said, why are you letting one person make the rest of you look bad? I said, why don't the 6 of you stand up and tell them to leave us alone? We have that right. The hurt it brought on my son and myself, it still hurts today. When we got everything taken away. I was brought up hunter, trapper, survival, hunter and gatherer for our community, and I still do it today, and I ain't gonna stop, I'll let you know that now. And I asked the CEO at one time, I said, how much are you guys taught about indigenous rights? He said, very little. And when I talked to that CEO, he says, oh, I know Minister Moses, like, I'm a joke. I felt so hurt. Because this land, they are the visitors. We aren't. And we're being treated like criminals. And for me and my son to go through that, it hurt like hell. That's like taking something away from you that you never given away. My grandfather, my father was a hunter and trapper. They suffered. My father can't walk today because he was a trapper and his knees are so. But at least he taught that. I traveled across the West. The elders say, take our kids back to the land. How can we do that when we're being ridiculed like this? That's where our kids belong, on the land. And that's what I'm trying to teach. I'm a land-based educator. I even travel in the schools in Winnipeg here. We talk about reconciliation, people. That hurt. As a spiritual person, as an elder, recognized in the school from the kids, trying to teach the kids the importance about the land and how important our Mother the Earth provides for us as Indigenous people and the understanding. I don't know if government will ever understand that. I'd like to see government take them out on the land and leave them out there for a week. Let's see what happens to them. And I say this because I've been hurt. I felt like my right was ripped away from me. And out of one guy was being so ignorant. And I don't think that was proper. I think these guys need to be educated in how to respect. If you don't respect me, I will not respect you. It works both ways. And as an Indigenous person, I never gave nobody my right of land, and I never will. Because for me, I'm going to get you to, I'll fight to the end. Government should never try to take away our rights. They have no right. We are the right-bearing holders. And why I say this, because I've been brought up from my grandfather and my father. My grandfather was a counselor back in the 50s. I'm going to share something. I always said this. And he said this to me when I was young. This thing here, says my boy, grandson, this is what you call a lie. He said, because you can interpret that way you want it to be. For you, for myself. So there's no truth to it. But when we sit here and do ceremony, we're talking to the Creator. We're talking to Spirit, and I heard you talk about that. Well, follow Spirit and let our people live what Spirit has given to us. Same with those animals. We have connection to the spirit of those animals. We know. I'll share something with you. I'm a dreamer. The animals come to me when they're ready to give themselves to me. That was a gift my father told me. Very powerful gift. And I go to exactly where that animal, I've seen him in my dream, and that animal is there. Now, if you don't understand that connection of the land and the animals as us indigenous people, I know they never will. You know, my son, when we got stopped, he kept asking, Dad, he was looking to me because I said, son, and my nephew, let me talk. Don't say nothing. When they were questioned, I said, don't say nothing. I said, you guys have no right. I never gave you the right of my land, and I never will. I say this in hurt and kind of harsh words, but the truth stings. Because the way I was treated like a criminal, and as a spiritual and a grandparent, a hunter, a trapper, a land-based educator, it hurt. Still hurts me today. My son was here earlier. I just wished he was here. The hurt he carried. They took his truck. He's a single father with 2 girls. We go out and hunt. Not just to go and take a bunch of animals, we take to feed our people. We're not out there, but yet we get labeled. And I know darn well we get labeled. I'm a community hunter. I had to go to Saskatchewan for a moose. Had a broken ankle, torn ACL in my knee. But I still brought 3 moose back from my community, and I distributed it. And that's why I say, when I come back to my own community and try to hunt my own animals here, I got everything taken away from me. That was my own self-identity that they're taking away, that inherent right, and I told them that. So I pray and ask, you know, our minister, and I'm asking you, educate your people about our inherent right. Because I asked your CEO, and he said very little. We should be in those things and sharing with these guys, giving them an education. Because they are out there, and they have no education. I don't mean to be in a harsh way, but I was hurt. And when you're hurt, it has to come out. My son felt it. For a month, he had no vehicle. Yet I said to him, that's what I mean. That's how it's impacting our people out there. We shouldn't have to be going through this. We're the land-bearing people of this. We never gave government a right. You know, I say this, people, because I've been affected, and I was brought up from a very powerful family of hunters and trappers. And when that hit me hard. My grandfather told me many things when he was a counselor. And one of the worst things and the best things that he ever told me was about that paper. Because it does twist things around. And it'll never be for the betterment of our people, believe me. With that, I say, Chi Miigwech, the Creator, for giving me the strength to speak from here, not from here. That's what's killing us. Speak from your heart. That's where our people lie, within us, our ancestors. and I give thanks, and I give it the utmost respect right now for listening to me. You've earned that, and I hope you give that back to our people. And the same with our minister, Bob Canoe. And I hope he gets this message, because one day I will run into him. So with that, I say, Chi Miigwech.
Thanks, Wayne. You want to respond?
Thank you very much for those words. I think they were very, and actually I want to thank you. I just want to say thank you, because I think those words were important to be said in this room today, important for us to hear them. I am sorry that you had those experiences with conservation officers. One of the things that I've communicated clearly with our department is to make sure that our conservation officers do a better job of building relationship, but regardless, I want to apologize for that experience that you had, but I also want to be grateful for the words that you expressed today, because I think they made a difference to me, in my understanding, and I think that they're something that we will carry and think about and reflect on. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Moses. Now you got Chief Denai who has a comment or a question.
Thank you for your comments. I also congratulate you on your newly elected position. And I know it's going to be a hard position. And probably 99% you're not going to get anything done. Because I've been around since '99. Many broken promises have come and gone. And different parties. And I think this is the third go-around with the Orange Party. But one thing is cultural appropriation. You understand that, being colonized. We've gone through that. We're not criminals. And when we talk about truth and reconciliation, you can make that right by not proceeding with court proceedings. Waste of time, waste of money. I took government to court, proponents to court, both provincial and federal, and won them all. When is that going to sink through the government? And when we talk about what's the next step, I sit with RCMP. I work well with RCMP, and I also go to a ceremony with RCMP in the Sweat Lodge. That's something maybe you should do, is to understand who we are. We're not all Indians, we're different tongues and different practices. Same concept in regards to one creator, one earth, right? And policy and legislation, that's what you have to look at. Make it work, make it right. The PC government has done a lot, and they're criminalizing the policies that are put in place there. I said that many times. That's why I took province and LP to court. Now you're going to assume that role. Why you take them to court? It's so easy because you're destructing the land. Now on one hand, you're enforcing it for animals and say you can't hunt. Meanwhile, private landowner, a farmer, has no trespassing on it. A sign. That's why I pity my brothers from the south. Because as soon as I hit south to Swan River, no trespass, private property. That's what it says. So where does the First Nations have to hunt? And our treaty right says it's our treaty territory. So I have a small territory, province of Manitoba. It extends to Saskatchewan. But I can only protect it so far because I had to rightfully remove provincial officials from my territory. I can't go past 2 hours because it's too far for me. And I had to tell them, if you don't leave within 5 minutes, you're going to walk from here. And once they leave quietly. That's something I shouldn't have to do. Because if you look at the treaties, that's what you got to understand. The provincial government is trespassing on our territories. So if you could remember that. The provincial government is trespassing in our territories. That's the key message you got to take to Wab Canoe and his ministers and the department and the different parties that represent Manitoba time to time. And when you talk about the Natural Resource Transfer Act, why that came into play is they developed the Dominions Land Act. That's what they developed first in order to enact the NRTA on how to steal the land under policy and guidelines. So make sure you research that, because that's what I'm going to come to you and ask and question you when we have our meeting, because we are going to meet. And I'm also the president of TLEC, Treaty Land Entitlement Committee in Manitoba. I'm trying to buy land, Crown land back for our use and benefit for future years. And this is where this proponent is impacting, basically getting a license to harvest and forest activity, which is your government is giving our proponent. That's from Nashville. You know, there's a company from Nashville making money in our territory. And meanwhile, I got to hire a lawyer to protect my hunter going to court. 4 years now. I think Jordan's principle says after 3 years, they're supposed to not proceed with charges. So that should tell you, province doesn't have a court case against my band member who has a treaty right to hunt. So these are things that you have to keep in mind. You know, I pity your position because you're going to be a servant of the province of Manitoba to deliver, you know, a message. And when you talk about truth and reconciliation, there's a lot of things that I'm going to recommend to you to enact. When you talk about Murray, he has 200-something points that's supposed to have been done to reconcile. So far, I think only 2 have been done. Canada, through UNDRIP, province through their laws, still not enacted. Why they're not enacted? Because province knows they're doing wrong. So when you're doing wrong, you're not going to do anything about it. And after, I'll give you 6 months. After 6 months, you're going to say, I don't want this position. You're going to transfer it to a different member. And we're going to start over again, right? Then after 6 months, we're going to start over again to another one. So hopefully you could accomplish something, you know, through your life. Tribunes, you felt what has gone through your history. Now you got to understand our history. And that's all I wanted to say to you. You know, you don't have to comment back. I just want to educate you and make you understand who we are. And as I was telling Canada and province of Manitoba, the speaking state biggest can I say be is it the magasuagaske kitana Ego speaker, I'm saying I'm Niwiniwan. Oma, to which it's again my Jogimaskio, Utanagi. Did you understand a word I said? So that's the translation we had with the newcomers, which is King George, right? And then the Queen, I got the new king now. Then when we don't have the understanding of my people weren't gifted a lawyer till the 50s, how are we supposed to understand what we understood? That's why there's only one witness, you know, which is Creator. And that's something where I'm asking you, maybe you'll feel something if you come with us to our ceremonies. Maybe this will open that third eye to make you understand, okay, I think I understand these First Nations people, these peoples that the land stewards. Then maybe you'll do something. But for the 6 months I'm giving you, hopefully I don't see you again or you just make it taking photos and not do anything, you know.
Thank you, Chief Tonight. You know, I just wanted to make you aware, Minister Moses, that, you know, the pain that you heard from Wayne is felt all over this country by other hunters, by other trappers, by other fishermen, by other land users, you know, and it's caused by conservation officers. You know, so they both talked about, you know, reconciliation, and I don't know if you were made aware, but in the 90s, there was a cultural awareness program for RCMP and conservation officers in this province. You know, that something that maybe we should revisit together so that we could work together to collaborate and talk about how do we develop that program again to make them, because you're getting conservation officers that come out of University of Lethbridge or out east or Winnipeg here, Manitoba, you know, and have no concept of First Nations culture, spirituality, or traditional way of life, right? And they go into a community. And, you know, I imagine that many of them, when I was in the RCMP, many of the white RCMP members would be just terrified to go on a reserve, right? But we're not criminals. Just because our color of our skin is different than theirs doesn't mean that we're, you know, we're bad people. We're out there hunting to provide for our family sustenance, right? So we have another gentleman on the side here. I imagine he wants to say a few words or ask a question. Yeah, so we'll get you to ask it in the mic.
Thanks. Oh, hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. want to shake your hand before you take off again. Well, it's a joke, but at the same time, it's not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to your speech that last time, and then I looked around for you, and you were gone. Yeah, so I was thinking, oh, there's another Kidaskis, another liar. Yeah, so I wanted to shake your hand before you go again. Yeah, I'm still on the encroachment. Yeah, encroachment, and kinaskomit na Ernest Castelny, then today I asked and where I'm from, there's nothing but forests and river systems. Unlike down here where there's farmlands and conservation officers and all the sorts. And I only got 2 minutes, yes. Encroachment is what I'm still talking about, and I can feel the pain and frustration from our southern relations down here, where they want to go and hunt, where they want to go and fish, but somebody over there is saying, no, you can't do that. You got to follow our regulations. What do you call that? Their laws. Yeah, but we have laws too. We do. And all the people here know it. First laws. And one of them is respect, so that's why I come and shake your hand first, and I explain to you what it was for. And we have first laws, and that is what we follow up there. I was taught by my grandfather, through my father, and to me, and then I teach my kids. For a number of years, I couldn't hunt. I could get close to moose, but I couldn't hunt. Here to this red chair, I could get that close, and I try shoot it, but it would move. And then I was thinking, oh boy, I wonder how long this is going to last. But it wasn't something that I had done. It was something that the moose spirit had arranged. I guess the people were getting a little too greedy when I would kill a moose. I would take it to my mother-in-law's, and she would disperse it. And I guess some of the people were saying, oh, just give me a hind quarter instead of a little piece because there's a lot of people to feed. So moose spirit said, okay, no more Ernest to kill us. So I went around that, and I taught my kids and other hunters, young hunters, I would teach them how to go and track, teach them how to shoot. All that I was taught, I passed it down. And those are the laws that we follow up there. And there's areas up there that belong to families. And I don't go into them without permission. And that's respect. Same thing when I go hunting in Saskatchewan. I go see the families there, and then I ask them, well, where can we go and hunt? And they're all happy, oh, come on, let's go. And because they know that I will go and take it home and I'll disperse it. And that's one of those things. And I go into Alberta too. And there was a time I went into Ontario, but I would always ask permission. And I would follow their guidelines in their areas on their protocols on what they had to do before going up and shooting a moose or caribou or bear. Bear I didn't really bother too much because when you skin it, it looks like a person. So I don't really bother bear too much. But if I have to, I do. And that's what I'm saying about respect. And you had all the people's respect that time when you said that you were going to listen. And then you left. And it hurt a lot of us. It hurt me. Yeah, it hurt me. I said, well, if this Ogama is going to say that and then he's going to leave, well, like the other gentleman was saying, well, you probably won't be here too long, and then we have to come out again and do the same whole process with the next person. Would be nice to see you there for a long time, but I don't know how government regulations are. Maybe they move you every year, maybe 2 years, maybe 6 months. But I would like you to be there because you have said that you were going to listen. Yeah. So we have our laws, and we have our traditions, and we have our areas, and that is being encroached upon, and that is being pushed away. So that's what I want to bring it to your attention. Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me, just for the record, what was your name?
Ernest Castell.
Ernest Castell.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you were here at the last one. Yeah. You want to comment on?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Ernest. Yes, I'll apologize again for having to leave so early at the last meeting. I can't be in two places at once, but I sincerely meant what I said when it comes to listening, which is one of the reasons why I'm back here again and trying to continue that conversation. And so I'm going to continue to try to do better on that and make sure that we make enough time for these important dialogue.
Thank you. We have another gentleman here. We have an elder. Yeah, yeah, I'll bring her the mic, and then she wants to make a statement or say a few words.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. And I appreciate this minister coming, having an interest in our First Nation issues. And I thank him for coming. But these buffalo hides really throws my imagination, you know. I know a bit of history, so there was one prime minister who said, kill the buffaloes so the natives will come begging to us. That's in the history book. And I know history is always one-sided. It's always them making our history. You know, we don't have a say in that. But I appreciate your presence here because we have a lot of issues like First Nation people. I come from Dauphin River Reserve. It's by Lake Winnipeg and it's by Dauphin River. So in 2011, we got flooded out. Everybody said it was to save Winnipeg. You know, they put the flood towards Dauphin River, and we were flooded out for 8, maybe 10 years. We were all flooded out, and we were homeless. We were placed in Winnipeg in different hotels. But with that, you never knew if you'd be sleeping in the same hotel, you know, and you were shifted around, I guess, to different hotels. There was one time there, and the people came from, they had help from Red Cross, and they said they were putting us in Brandon. And then I said, no, I'm not going to Brandon. I've come far already. I'm staying right here. So the other people agreed, and we got to stay in Winnipeg. But I'm going back to fishing, you know. Because of the flood, we lost our moose, we lost the fish, and we absolutely don't have anything now. I was to a previous meeting, and they said that, you know, that the fishermen, because they're not getting anything, they were getting welfare. And that's very troubling, you know. These people have made a living throughout their lives. Now to be put on welfare, you know, that is so discouraging. But you are a minister, you can turn things around. And I think all of us would depend on you to do something about this. You know, don't let the fishermen go on welfare. You know, they're working people. And besides that, someone said that they had a meeting where Indian Affairs was involved. And he was supporting people to let go of their licenses, surrender their licenses and sell them and get money for them, like real quick. And when you're broke and on welfare, like you'll fall for that. That's not good. You know, I think the fishermen, the people in these communities should get compensation. You know, we're going through hard times. I never want to say that, but it's come to that. You know, there's no fish where we depended on fishing all our lives, like for the past 100 years. Maybe I shouldn't go back there, but you know, I always say, people have come from Winnipeg, you know, Gimli, Riverton, they would know, and right down to where we live, the reserves. They came to Dauphin River to make a living, and that was good, you know. These people came to, maybe it wasn't so good, but I remember when we were kids, they fished right along Lake Winnipeg from our place to up north from us. It's called Warpath and Reindeer. Oh, they didn't use those small fish boxes. They used the bigger ones, just packed with whatever, pickerel. I think it was mostly pickerel. And there was caterpillars and great big bobsleds that took our fish away. I know that, I saw that. So, you know, it's affecting everybody, the little kids and their families, you know. These young men worked for fishermen if they didn't already have a license. You know, now they don't have anything. There's no fish at all. And now I'm going to talk about this new diversion they're planning. If right down number 6, there's a town there, it's called Moosehorn. It's not about moose, I'm just kidding. But from that Moosehorn right to Lake Winnipeg, they're making a diversion. And it's gonna, you know, interfere with, if there's fish out there, there's gotta be some interference because of the spawning, you know, the spawning area they have to have. But it's only about a couple miles from where we live on Lake Winnipeg from Moosehorn. It's very, well, we're all very afraid, you know, that it will go on and affect the spawning areas of what little fish there is. So you're a minister, I forget your name, and mi wetap skuchi anchichikatik are iwe diversion iwe awashimeti ni shiwanachichige magakimaka wakung thakaya watonchi wat mima wenchitaya kiguanis mi wenta ni kinagego michuanituang. And the other thing, I keep forgetting, because you are a minister, I would like to ask you to extend our fishing lines. We're very limited. From where I live, you can see the other side of the lake. You can see the shore, and that's our line for fishing. If you're caught fishing outside there, you would lose everything, your equipment, and go to jail. You know, it's like that. So fishermen are have to fish within that boundary they've set in, and we'd like to have that boundary extended because maybe there's fish on the other side somewhere. So we need to have that boundary extended. And because we depend on fishing for a living. We've always had that. You know, I know that came from across the ocean. Mishigo man bimiti ba and bimiti beni mikonanik. They came across the ocean. Our people helped them to survive. You know, mi kuni nakatawendan has an elder. Kinakeguni nakatawendan. When there was a meeting at South Beach, I was there too, and I went home and I felt bad for not saying anything. But I'm taking this advantage because you are a minister. I'm sure you'll help us. And through my history, I've read about Trinidad, you know, so you've come a long ways. Well, I think I've kind of covered everything. I'll keep coming to the meeting, and I thank these guys, Mike, these guys for putting up this meeting. Right now, like someone mentioned Indian Act and policies, and you know, this one lady worked for Indian Affairs. She's Greek, and she's been there. She was there for 50 years, and she said that's all they do is develop policies, indigenous policies and all that. Okay, thank you for letting me speak and throw out some of my concerns. Miigwech, Mike.
Thank you, Elder. Much appreciated. Okay, we got a couple more here. Minister Moses has to leave at 2:30, so he's got an engagement at 3, right? So we got 3 more here. If you could keep your comments a little bit shorter, because we're going to be running out of time if you want to be heard. All right, so, yeah. All right, Henry wants to speak as well, Elder Henry Travers. Yeah, come up here and then give your name. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Wesley Munias. I'm from Hollow Water First Nation. I'm elected official there, Bound Council. Mr. Minister, I'd like to thank you for attending this meeting. Last time you were, I guess you had other appointments you had to make. We understand that. And we know the portfolio that you've got, you inherited a lot of this. It is not your making, but we ask you to open your eyes, get a clear view of what's happening. What we present to you is true. And my comment is I represent fishermen on the Hollow Water, Lake Winnipeg East side. And the conservation officers have been out there in full force last year. And they've been targeting fishermen, native fishermen especially. And our fishermen we're having a rough time, but now a lot of them have been charged for little piddly things like not having your treaty number on your stick, wrong size nets, wrong size mesh. These are First Nations people that have licenses, but they also have commercial licenses. Right now, the way it's written in the policy is there is no place to appeal. There's nothing for conflict resolution in this policy that the government has forward. So I ask you today, could you make room for us to appeal our fishermen's charges and have an avenue so we can resolve conflict of interest within that department? Miigwech.
Oh, awesome question.
Thank you. Great question. I think that's a very good point in terms of the impact that it has on commercial fishers and how we can better do a job of working as province conservation officers with the people on the ground doing the work of commercial fishers, and how we can make sure that when there are issues, we can resolve them in the most constructive way possible. So we'll definitely take that note away and see what we can do. Hopefully we can have more discussion about that and see what we can make of that in the future. Thanks.
Do you want some water? You're good. All right, just when he leaves, don't all take off, please, because the meat and potatoes of the day is going to happen after we have a break. We're going to break out into table groups, and I want everybody to fill all the tables they can. We're going to hand out, and we're going to have note takers at each table, and there's going to be a series of questions that we're going to ask each table to respond to. And this is a chance for those of you that don't want to get up and speak to offer your opinion and your ideas as we move forward about some of these things. And it's really important that we gather that information from you, and we put down on the questions. And this is just, we could ask 100 questions, but right now we just pose 6 so that we could help move forward in a good way to present these to government, so that this is the start of dialogue and collaboration from our part in a way we want to see things as we move forward. But I'll bring the next fellow up here. He has a question, and you could just say your name, please, and where you're from.
Justin Moose, Puggawagan. Hello. I'm not really a representative of anything. I'm a man of the land and the water. I occupy the lands, I occupy the waters, and I do represent I'm the president of the Fishermen's Association for Pickerel Narrows community, just newly elected in that board. And my concern is always about the land and the waters. But I heard a lot of statements on this meeting and the last meeting. And there's some things that, as a minister, that could implement on our behalf. I was also a councillor for a municipality during the years of 2014 and 2018. And one thing that really concerned me when I was attending the gathering of municipalities is all municipalities in Manitoba sit like this, every municipality, and they vote, make resolutions, make amendments on our behalf, and none of us are there. None of our people are representing our people. When they were doing a voting process on a certain topic, it got my attention. And they were discussing nuclear waste, where to dispose it. They were talking amongst each other, all municipalities. Not one First Nations peoples were there. We were lucky that our municipality was majority First Nations. So they were discussing, where are they going to drop this waste? Where are we going to bury it? They were talking about all the safety and laws that they're abiding by. They were planning on bringing this nuclear waste north of where I come from. And they were going to go bury these barrels up north. And they had the question period, just as we are doing right now. So I had the opportunity to go speak up there. I said, these decisions and this waste that you guys are discussing, I said, why are you guys allowed to make these decisions without the consolidation of the First Nations people? I said, you guys have no right to vote on where you're going to bury this nuclear waste without consulting us. I said, you guys should table this and find a different place to bury this waste. You can't impose these